Hi, welcome. I'm Mary and I hook books. I crochet things inspired by books. I saw Goodreads put out their top 80 horror or something like that for the last 10 years. Normally, I think Goodreads can take a long walk off a short pier. Use Storygraph. Storygraph is so much better, but they don't do stuff like this. And I have read or attempted to read 29 of their greatest horror hits. So I thought I would come tell you what I thought about these, and based on my tastes and how our tastes compare, maybe you'll find something that you like or something to avoid. 2016, I read The Ballad of Black Tom. I had heard so much about this and it was so hyped that I was kind of disappointed, and I think cosmic horror just might not be for me. There are exceptions, like I loved When the Dead Take the A Train, I think. And there's a couple things that I have liked, but in general, cosmic horror is not my thing. I did used to really enjoy Lovecraft-ish. He's definitely problematic, but he's the father of cosmic horror. And I think I'm just kind of over it at this point in my life. But if you do like cosmic horror, and this has some really cool representation, you might enjoy this one. And also in 2016, Lovecraft Country. And I liked this one a lot. This has a lot of tropes that are a lot of characters and references and Easter eggs to Lovecraft's stories. And yeah, I think he mostly wrote stories, maybe some novellas. But it's also about the Jim Crow South and trying to exist as a person of color in that era. So this one I really enjoyed. I even read the sequel, which was not quite as good, but was also enjoyable. So this one I would definitely recommend. 2017, Into the Drowning Deep. Loved it, loved it, loved it. It got me kind of started on a Mira Grant binge or rabbit hole. Face-eating mermaids. It was great. It was very fast-paced. It was like a good thriller slasher horror with face-eating mermaids. And then Her Body and Other Parties. Like any short story collection, there were hits and misses, but there were some amazing hits in this, and very feminist, very the experience of marginalized communities, and it had a wide variety of topics covered, so I would recommend this if you're into weird, maybe a little magical realism short story collections. 2018, The Hunger. This is a Donner Party retelling, and I am into lore like that. I thought it was a fairly good retelling, but I didn't think it brought anything really that special to the trapped on a mountain cannibalism trope. And Foe, this was really big, hence why it's on the top 10 or top 80 or whatever horror of the last decade. I heard so much about it and I read it, and it is very slow, it is very contemplative. It's a couple in the middle of nowhere, and I expected it to feel more isolated, and I just didn't quite get that. The big twist at the end, I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. So So, I do want to watch. I saw that Prime has a movie. I didn't know that it was made into a movie, so maybe I'll like that better. Moon of the Crusted Snow. I loved this one. I love me a vague apocalypse. This I had to force myself to put down because I worked the next day and I was like, I have to go to sleep. Otherwise, I probably could have read it in one setting. It's an isolated indigenous village, and something has happened to the power, and we have no communications. Eventually, we have people from the outside come in, and they're like, yeah, like everything has just shut down. So, snowy atmosphere, which I love, vague apocalypse, indigenous people, little bit of supernatural kind of horror. So this one, 5 stars plus, loved it. I read the follow-up, Moon of the Turning Leaves, I think maybe it was, and I do like that we find out kind of what happened to some of these people, but it was not as good in my opinion. 2019, I read the short story collection from Joe Hill, Full Throttle, and just like any collection, there were some that were hits and some that were misses. Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King, and he collabed with his dad on one of those stories, and it was actually my least favorite, but like I could tell there was a lot of father-son stuff going on that I could appreciate. The story was not my favorite. But there were a lot of stories across a wide range of topics and tones, and I did enjoy many of these in this collection. It's not as scary or terrifying as a lot of Stephen King or even other books by Joe Hill, but it is more like contemplative, sci-fi, maybe a little magical realism, and fantasy. And The Invited, I liked this one. It is a very typical like couple in their struggling marriage buy a house in the country, but I did think that this flipped a couple haunted house tropes kind of on its head, and I liked the way it played out, and I liked the ending. The Institute by Stephen King. I enjoyed this. It's not as scary and horror as a lot of Stephen King's work, but I felt like it was more of a sci-fantasy, like almost YA. It is about a lot of kids with superpowers that get taken to the Institute for nefarious, maybe, purposes, and yeah, like a little bit like X-Men-y kind of, but like against their will. So I enjoyed it, and this also has been made into an adaptation that I'm going to need to check out. 2020, I read The Hollow Places. I still think about The Hollow Places. The characters are amazing, but the lore of the hollow places, like, I want to know. I have to put these pieces together and figure out what's in the other hollow places. So this one, huge, 5 stars, loved it. Just enough like sweet, funny character stuff combined with like super creepy, like what in the world is going on, and it doesn't give you all the answers, and that is why I am still thinking about it to this day. Like, what is in the other hollow places? I have to know. Anyway, and then Ring Shout. I did not read this for a while, and I think it was sold to me wrong. It was very good, don't get me wrong, but the premise of the KKK being aliens and us having to like fight aliens sounds like something different than what I got. So this is much more like sci fantasy, and it really did feel like a fever dream the whole time. I loved it, but it was way different than what I thought I was getting into. And then If It Bleeds, I thought this was just a regular short story collection. I guess it's part of like the Holly series. I didn't feel like I missed out on too much by not reading the other books. It comes from If It Bleeds, It Leads. So I did like the journalism aspect. I thought that was really interesting. But other than that, it is kind of forgettable. And oh, The Only Good Indians. So back in like the old cowboy days, they would say the only good Indian is a dead Indian. And that Stephen Graham Jones, I think this is Stephen Graham Jones, I better double check, but he is indigenous and he flips that on its head, and this was so creepy. These men go hunting on land that they should not be hunting on because it's the elders' land or the gods' land. I can't exactly remember. And they face the consequences. So, very eerie, creepy. Yeah, I absolutely loved this one. And the last one for 2020, Tender is the Flesh. This, again, I think was sold to me a little bit different than what I got, but I did enjoy it. In this world, something has happened. I think it was a virus, and we, as humans, cannot digest animal meat anymore, so we turn to a special meat. And I liked the world and I liked the concept much more than I liked the characters. I did not like the characters or the plot, but the concept was really cool. Overall, I think it was kind of overhyped, but it was kind of good if you're into, the cannibalism thing. The Book of Accidents, I do remember really enjoying. There is some like father son family trauma themes throughout. A multi-dimensional, like, I do not remember anything really about the plot except that like we have multiple dimensions, and it was fairly good. Like, that's about all. It was really big, and I remember mostly kind of enjoying it, but that's about it. And unfortunately, I did DNF My Heart is a Chainsaw. I wanted to love this. I love when a character loves something, and this main character loves horror movies, and she loves slashers in particular. Even though I'm not the biggest into that, I get a lot of the references just because they're so ubiquitous in modern culture. But I did not like the storytelling. I thought I could hang in there, but I just lost interest really fast. 2022, Mother Thing. I DNF'd not because it was bad, but because it was too good and I was not in the headspace to deal with that. So I will probably go back. I don't even remember what it's about, except it's like mother-in-law horror. And Dead Silence. I love horror set in space. It's the ultimate like closed circle mystery. You are stuck. I love the isolation. I love the claustrophobia. In this one, they are scavengers or salvagers. That's the word. They're salvagers. And this ship that's basically Space Titanic went missing, and now it has come back into the solar system, and they're like, okay, well, let's go check it out. And everything on this ship was expensive, so we're gonna have a good payday. But it gets creepier from there. This one I really did enjoy. And Our Wives Under the Sea, this is very slow, reflective. I wouldn't even call it like a horror. It is more the melancholy and fear of losing your partner because they're changing. And she may or may not be changing into something inhuman, but what is causing the rift in their relationship isn't necessarily the supernatural. It's just that people change, and we have to figure out if we can change together. And What Moves the Dead? I either give T. Kingfisher 5 stars or I DNF. Historical fiction is very difficult for me to get into. There are definitely exceptions. This is an Edgar Allan Poe retelling about, I think it's the House of Usher, and I loved Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix, but I just couldn't get into it. I wanted to, and I just unfortunately lost my interest pretty quick. 2023, Dead of Winter. I think this is where I discovered Darcy Coates, and I love her. Not everything is 5 stars, but everything's at least a 3. It's pretty good. And Dead of Winter has some of my favorite tropes. I love when the characters get snowed in and freaky things start happening. People start dying. So I really enjoyed this. And then the Reformatory, again, historical fiction isn't really my thing. I had heard so many good things about it, but it just was so slow to get started. And if it's historical fiction, I really need the pace to be quick, or I do lose interest pretty quickly. The September House, though, I really enjoyed this. And I know it's become almost cliche at this point, a haunted house as a metaphor for trauma. But I really did enjoy this. I enjoyed the horror aspects of it. I enjoyed the family's journey together. I even physically bought a copy of this because I really loved this one. Then, How to Sell a Haunted House. Again, I want to love these books, but I just found the characters so insufferable. The family dynamics just had me grinding my teeth, and I was like, nope, I'm out. 2024, I read Diavola, and I forgot why this was even on my TBR. It came up at the library, and I almost DNF'd because I was like, I do not like this family drama. It is too much. But I kept going, and eventually I utterly loved it. This is one of my favorites, I guess it would be feminist horrors that I've read in recent years. And I needed to get through the awful family stuff to appreciate what happens later in the book. This family goes to Italy, and they're like on a vacation, and the black sheep of the family is obviously the best sheep in the family, but they do not treat her like that, and there's ghosts. And then my darling Dreadful Things. I generally don't like gothic or historical fiction, but I really did enjoy this one. This is about a girl who she's used by her mother as like those people that did seances and scammed everybody, except she's legit. And this older woman comes and basically like adopts or buys her, and she goes to live in this old lady's house, and they end up having like a really sweet relationship. I don't remember anything about the scary parts, but I do remember enjoying it. And we used to live here. I do think it's good to go into this book blind. I thought we were going to get a straightforward kind of home invasion, but there's a lot more horror and maybe sci-fi. Like, it's so hard to classify what is going on in this book, but I did really enjoy it. And it also does, I think they get snowed in at one point, and that is definitely one of my favorite tropes. And last one, incidents around the house. I enjoyed this until the ending, and a lot of people have had the exact opposite opinion. I'd listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook really grates on a lot of people's nerves because the audiobook narrator talks like the 8-year-old that is supposed to be telling this story. Thanks, Fry. And it gets on a lot of people's nerves. I really enjoyed it, but then at the end, I was like, that's it? That's the thing? Like, the journey was really freaking creepy. Like, the other mommy coming out of the closet at night, like, peak horror. But the ending, I was like, that's it? That is what all of this has been leading up to? So a lot of people really loved the ending. I did not. I enjoyed the journey, not the ending. A lot of people have the exact opposite opinion. It is a good thing that I am almost done with this video because my crepuscular children are getting a little crazy. The sun is about to come up, and they are in peak hunting random speck of dust mode. So I did not read any of the 2025 top horror from Goodreads. Not much of it actually looks all that interesting to me. I might pick up a couple. I do want to check out the new Stephen Graham Jones Buffalo Hunter just because I liked some of his stuff in the past, but obviously I have DNF'd others, so we shall see. Those are my thoughts on the books that I read or attempted to read on the Goodreads Top Horror of the Last Decade list. Let me know if you have read any of these books or any of the other books that I didn't and you think I should. Oh goodness, my children. I hope you find some really great, spooky, cozy, whatever mood you are in for the fall reads. And as always, take care of yourself, drink your water, eat some veggies, take a nap, say no to someone, and keep your shoulders back, your head up, and breathe.